Short Rest with Fonzi and Carlo.
Sige, let's start.
All right.
All right, let's. Coming from our rough week, once again, we are back to make our short rest. With me is DM Carlo Gonzalez, all the way from Pasig, Metro Manila. Shout out naman.
Weighing in at 205 pounds.
Weighing in
Hey,
at.
Fonzie.
Hey, man, weighing in at. No, judge me.
Pounds.
All right.
Hey, Fonzie.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm cool, man. Thank you, DM Fonzie. What you see before you is a man a little bit chunky. It's been a rough week, and I'm so glad for being able to do this again with you. It's been a challenging week. So I wish we, rather than having a short rest, we just had the long rest, because holy shit, every month is a new every month is a it's burning. It's a new encounter. Someone who opened the portal to Avernus fucking closed that portal, man. It's not good.
Yeah, we need to stock up on diamond dusts and 100 gold pieces to cast greater restorations all around. The Philippines is under threat by this great pandemic, and we have yet to determine and find the source to be able to slay it. I wish it were that easy.
Yeah, diba? It isn't. There's always political intrigue. We're not gonna get into that, by the way. There's always some other problem that needs helping. But hey, we're looking forward. I mean, this is life. In one of the games that I've played, one player I'd like to coach says that we have two choices with when it comes to these difficulties. We can either forge on, get up, and move forward, or you can lie down and die. I would tend to choose the former.
That's a good way of looking at things. Very simple, very, very clear. And just to give us some perspective on what's happening today with with everything, with our political leaders and stuff, in just conventional D&D module writing, the leaders don't do anything. It's up to us.
Send someone in there. We'll pay him.
It's really up to us to solve this problem and for them to take credit. But it's really just the power is just in each and every one of us to just do our part. And that's really just the power of being adventurers like us, like you and me.
Yeah.
The common folk of we need to convince them to stay in their homes, make our ability checks, charisma checks, and persuasion or even intimidation, just for them to stay in their stupid houses and wear their stupid masks and keep distance. It shouldn't be that hard, right? It shouldn't be that hard. You would think.
Shouldn't be that hard. Yeah. I mean, well, I haven't even gotten to companies laying their people off, pero I guess let's not. Yeah. It's been a rough time, man.
Yeah, difficult, but definitely something that we can learn from and something that we can move forward from. Just look at what will we look like after everything has transpired and we have come out of this victorious. What would that mean for us? What would we look like?
Well, I guess the question would be, what does victory look like, right? So we already have a vaccine, right? And then we already have that world, distributed to everyone. I guess I'm not sure.
And the dead dragon.
Yeah, just like we just find the dead dragons everywhere.
The stupid dragons casting coronavirus and us failing our constitution saving throws.
Oh God, when you say coronavirus, I remember that one. I forgot kung si Ziggy Azalea ba yun? That one woman rapper. I forgot what she's coronavirus. I forgot that rap. It's now stuck in my head.
Number one, wrong rapper.
Sorry. You just pull up your. Excuse me, you're talking about the wrong rapper. It's actually.
Number two, I will not tell you the right rapper. So you can do that on your own after this episode. And
Kind of what?
guys, if you have that rapper in mind, just send us a message and Carlo will give you some free stuff.
Yeah. Just a PNG of me just doing this. Okay.
Yep. Or
Yeah.
or just the TikTok of you dancing. Speaking of
No, fuck, don't. No, everyone's gonna ask for that now. You don't know. You got me in trouble, dude. I'm not TikTok. Just no.
do you have a TikTok?
No, I don't have a TikTok. I don't want to go into TikTok. I don't want to know how it's done. But I feel like if I should get more views, sure, I'll do it. I am that kind of attention whore.
Yeah.
Hindi naman.
Yeah.
Joke.
Well,
Alright.
yeah.
So,
So what were you going to say?
I was wondering if we could re-roll some hit dice. That
Absolutely.
was really bad. All right.
Absolutely.
So you go first, Fonzie. You roll. How's the week? How's the week been so far?
Well, the week has been relatively good despite everything else falling into
Mm-hmm.
shit. Um, uh, I just got my certification from the neuro-linguistic programming school that I got into. So I am
Yeah.
apparently now an LP certified life coach.
Nice.
Right.
Congrats,
And
man.
I have the certificates and everything. So, like, do you know of that kind of like that Facebook post that parang yung request na is parang describe your job but do a
Uh,
bad job at it?
uh, how would you describe it?
Um, I have pieces of paper telling me that I know better and you should listen to me.
You know what? It's like that's good. Someone turned that into an actual post. Like Fonzie as a bard, and then he just holds up a piece of paper.
Right? Parang, how, coach, why should I listen to you? Because of this. And I wave around my certification.
Oh shit! Well,
This should tell you that I'm competent.
To be fair, isn't that like what diplomas should be doing?
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
You would think. Yeah, and aside from that, it's just been a really well, I ran a game this week.
Oh, nice!
I ran a game this week.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Finally.
I ran a season 9 mod tier 2. It's called Infernal Insurgency. I believe it was called.
Infernal.
And it has a lot of it's a strike team mission. So you gather a team, you form a strategy, and you infiltrate a demon devil slash stronghold or something.
Okay.
So,
Infiltrate. Okay.
and the objective of the mission is to create as much havoc as you can. So it's fun.
Oh.
And I've been trying out, I posted a picture on the AL Philippines page about the setup that I used because I didn't use Roll20 or any virtual tabletop.
Yeah.
I used Discord and a camera and battle maps. So what I did is I streamed my battle map with tokens and everything to my players.
Wow.
And it was such a fun game because the players got to use their dice again. So combat was particularly very interesting because they forgot how to roll dice and forgot how damage works. But it's really just part of the game, just being in that panic state of having an incubus trying to steal your trying to take control of your raging barbarian. Who apparently who tried to there's Carlos Dice appearing on the screen. Hi Dice. Apparently when the barbarian did fail its saving throw, so
it's a
the
wisdom
incubus
saving throw.
the incubus took control of the barbarian and ordered it to kill the teammates, of which it
Oh God.
tried to do. And what the other teammates did is they flew 60 feet up in the air. Lo and behold, the barbarian has a broom of flying.
Oh God. Okay.
So fun times. Fun times.
Oh man, that's so cool. I haven't played pa eh. Okay.
So
How did
that's,
that part? How did that thing end? Like, was that a TPK or they
no.
got out?
No, they got particularly they remembered that their only objective was to kill the incubus and not really try to get away from the barbarian. So they just focus fired on the incubus, and then eventually
Okay. Okay. The incubus like snapped out. Oh, why am I
said,
flying and why do I have John's blood on my axe?
and the incubus' last words were, "Goodbye, nice to know you."
Oh my! For those who don't know, I love incubus.
So do I.
wish
But don't
wish I
tell my
was there
church.
though.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I that format works better for me, so I kind of regret spending money on Roll20. So, but it's difficult because you have to think about its honor system, right? So you have to think
Oh
about
yeah.
players that whom you really trust with the honor system, because it's so easy. I rolled a natural 20. I rolled a natural 20. Make a charisma saving throw. I rolled the 21. Tapos negative 2
Yeah.
yung kanyang wisdom score.
Yeah,
Parang
I
ganun.
guess ikaw lang yung nag-camera nun for the battle maps, no?
Yeah, but if the players wanted to, like for example, there was a interesting NPC who couldn't talk.
Mm-hmm.
One of the module notes, that you would get from the module itself is to act it out with gestures. So I switched my camera from my token camera to my webcam, and I mimed the interaction, and they got it.
It worked.
It
Oh, okay.
was fun.
That's cool.
So that's probably something that I would do because it's just nearest to the experience of being over the table.
Live, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fun.
I feel nga that the online tokens, like I save Roll20 these days for ano talaga. For mostly for combat encounters and stuff. Other than that, I just role play theater of the mind lang.
Yeah.
That's the shit. That's how it works. Tapos if you have like cameras on, like yung recent the weeb group, yung weeb group ko that I usually interact with on a weekly basis. We always have our cameras on. It's good eh. It's good to see those faces eh. It's therapeutic too kasi you see another human's face.
Yeah.
Pero I feel na once I get them into D&D, it's gonna be one hell of campaign.
Do they not run? Do they not play any
One of them,
sort
one
of
of them,
role-playing games?
no. One of them does. Yung iba wala. This is a work and shit. So anyway, all right. So is there
Would you like to roll some hit dice, my friend?
Yeah, I think yeah, I would love to. For over the past week I've been same thing, busy at work. I've been writing some reviews on some anime that I've watched because I'm starting a new segment and potentially another podcast which deals with anime stuff naman. So that's another thing. So
Nice.
my to-do list outside of work keeps growing as well. Work-wise ganun din. It's been the list is growing, pero I feel na considering how news then recently, sadly, no, the Philippines has officially reached a recession. I feel like we're lucky that we're getting a lot of job opportunities. It's better than a lot of people getting laid off and stuff. So it's sad.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been really rough. It's been really rough lately. And as I mentioned, like these podcasts, they might seem up. This is for my channel and stuff. It's also really it's also really therapeutic to just be able to talk with someone about these things and the things that I love, that I care about.
Yeah.
And yeah, That's yeah. I think I rolled a natural 20 because I needed to, or I rolled the maximum hit die because I needed to get that off my chest. And I'm very grateful for you, man, for just being able to talk to me with this about the nerdy things that I like.
Yeah, this has been our, like, how I described it to one of, because I've been inviting people over to not only listen but maybe even guest in the podcast in the future when we're ready to take in guests.
Mm-mm.
Part of the thing that how I've described the show is like therapy. You just
Yeah.
talk about, we get away from the hustle and bustle of normal life and go into our short hour of just talking about things we're really passionate about and things that we consciously set aside. And you don't really have that same space anymore, unlike before, where we can just go out, like,
Yeah.
and spend time with players even after the game and talk about the game, like what they did wrong, what they did right, and like what the consequences could have been if certain choices were made.
Were made or omitted, diba?
So those are the kinds of like conversations that you miss, even in
Having.
online games, because like especially for public games, I'm not crapping on AL particularly, but once the game is over and you distribute your rewards, they leave the Discord channel and that's it. Thank you, DM.
Yeah. It's very one night standish.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that, because I was
I'm
actually
sorry.
thinking of the same thing. Is that the like the AL community is, in terms of like D&D, sort of gives out that kind of vibe, just one
I
night
mean,
stand. I have an itch I have to scratch. I shall join the public table and scratch my itch. And then
and
after
then
that,
do like 150 points of bludgeoning damage in just one round.
yep, and you get your energy out. Hmm.
Uh-uh.
And your craving is and your craving is sated for a bit, and
Uh,
then after a few hours you kind of feel guilty, and there's a hole in your heart, that you wish that there were some other things that you could have done in that game that is not particularly present in long-term campaigns, which is a meaningful relationship.
friends, di ba? Like, that's
Right.
why I'm really adamant at getting my weeb group to play D&D then kasi not only is it a way for us to bond pa other than talk about anime and stuff. Ano it's an experience. Like other, most likely the theme of our campaign would be anime-esque. So,
Oh yeah, there
yeah.
are mods that are anime, so I
I
can I
know,
can
right?
give I can give you some
Could you run
ideas
that
about
game
that.
for us? Like, if you don't mind, I would grab these little shits together. We'll just gather around your bonfire, and you can just
If
run it for us.
ever, if ever, that would happen, like if you would want like an anime esque, geek, kind of like story,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be the best person to run it because I'm not very well versed in worlds of anime. Although I do
Yeah.
watch I do have my fair share of anime, but I'm not that kind of a connoisseur. Like
Yeah.
in terms of like wine, I drink Novellino, and I like Novellino. But
Novelino is good, naman.
what?
I like it because
How
it's
dare
cheap.
you? Like,
I have trash taste. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go
that's
on.
that's me in anime. Shit.
Anyway, sorry. Back to the topic at hand. Yeah. This whole resurgence of the MECQ. I call it MECQ Part Two Electric Boogaloo, because yeah, we're back to this again, and it's only for 2 weeks. Pero alam mo yun, parang I feel like if things aren't going, like if administration, I don't want to say administration, if governance is not doing its part, quote unquote. I don't want to get political in this podcast. Let's get political over fair and though. Pero like l- let's just do it on ourselves. Like parang tayo na lang. Kumbaga,
Mm.
we'll just let's just uh, do best practices. Let's just keep clean. Let's just stay home. Yun.
Yeah.
It, it,
How do you think Baldur's Gate will handle a pandemic with the political climate of Baldur's Gate being a run by dukes and duchesses, and that the enforcement of law is done by a mercenary group called the Flaming
the
Fists?
flaming
Like,
fist.
how would that ECQ look like in Baldur's Gate?
I imagine, like, didn't they do that before? Like, they segregated those infected or had symptoms, and then they just virtually killed them all. I mean, I feel like that's how this is the Dark Ages. This is way before this is like there's no practice of medicine
Mm-hmm.
per se. So they'd probably just like find a way to heal them, get some adventures to find out the magical well, first they'll hold the council of people who know more better than most people, magic users, diba?
Mm-hmm.
uh, People who are very acclimated towards the wild or nature. They hold this big gathering. They talk about it, what causes this thing, and then okay, so this is what causes this thing. Let's send out some adventurer researchers to get resources from all over Feyran, and then let's come up with with a cure somehow.
Right.
And then they have to prevent this particular plague from spreading. And then those that are infected with the plague, they don't heal them, man. I feel like
They die.
they just they're killed.
Op up.
Well,
I call it the Oppa Pyongyang style.
I feel like would be this is a darker version of Oppa Gangnam. Pero
Yep.
yeah.
The song
yeah.
just ends after 15 minutes, after 15 seconds. Oppa Pyongyang style.
Just dark screen. There's
Nope.
yeah. Yeah, so I think I've regained my hit points. To the viewers, just if you'd like, viewers and listeners, if I'm not sure if Spotify has a comment. I don't think they have a comment section, but just send us comments in our posts whenever we promote this and all. Let us know how you feel
Mhm.
about how people in Faerun and in the Forgotten Realms would handle this particular pandemic.
Right. Like, how would your tier 1 character react to the
What?
measures being introduced by the officials and leadership of Baldur's Gate in terms of sequestering and eliminating the source and the spread of this dangerous pandemic?
Mm. Little do they know. It was the leaders who came up with this, so they can purge the land of those who there. Just kidding.
Absolutely. And similar to the fashion of modules and adventures in Dungeons and Dragons, the solution really lies in the adventurers, not the
Yeah.
leadership. So it's really just
Yeah.
up to each and every one of us who picks up our own sword and face shield and to be able to don them so that we won't make our constitution saving throws with disadvantage. So give
Yeah.
yourself a chance at life. Practice social distancing, wash your hands, wear your masks, and go out only if you want to or only if you need to.
Yeah, there's this post that I made about how Dungeons and Dragons players are actually more cautious about that because like there's still a 2% chance of getting infected. Let me just pull that up. I'm not sure if you've seen that particular uh, graphic about
The
the cor-
likelihood
the
of
cor-
one
the
to be able
yeah.
to.
Hold on. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm getting to it.
Yeah,
Pero yeah, this.
while you're getting to that, like thinking about a situation in the D&D verse about a localized pandemic. I believe one of the situations happening that was sort of like similar to this is the events coming from the Tomb of Annihilation, which is
Hmm,
a adventure book. It's Toa, right? And
yeah.
the idea being that the whole island of Cholt being an island located, somewhere, distant from Faerun, right? And Cholt is a very isolated island. with their own economy, with their own thing going on, and it was struck with this curse. It's called the death curse,
A
and
death curse.
essentially, the death curse encompassed everyone who would enter Chult, and even if you exit Chult, you still carry the death curse. It's not transferable. You just need to enter Chult and be, and be exposed to that energy. And the death curse, what it does is it deteriorates your
Soul, I
your
guess.
soul. So once you die, you die. You're not able to be revivified or reincarnated in any way. So once you die, you're dead. And
It's
that's really
hardcore
just,
mode.
yeah, and it's just really scary. And I thought,
Yeah.
I thought initially D&D was like that. Like once your character dies, you're dead. I didn't know there were spells like Revivify, which brought characters back to life, which is something to look at. And what's interesting, if we really dig into like what politics and what leadership did to be able to curb the death curse in Chult, well, they hired adventurers to do it for them.
Could you go there and throw your life away to
and
save
and
others?
and what's interesting is that they've hired a lot of adventurers to do that for them, and most of them failed. So it's kind of like you go and solve the problem, then you go and solve the problem, and once they've solved the problem, the government takes credit. It's great.
Yeah, speaking of which, man, we have to give a shout out to these heroes. And yeah, besides the adventurers from Scholl, more importantly, our frontliners.
Mhm.
Man, these guys deserve a lot of credit. Like they are like if this is our war, this is our generation's war, man. This whole pandemic thing, and they are our frontline soldiers right now.
Absolutely. Not
Shout
just
out to you guys. You're the
not
real
just the
heroes.
front line. They're holding it down.
Yeah.
From everything from taking care of initial symptoms to making sure that patients are isolated and follow rules, but also patients after they are cured that they still follow protocols. Like I know people who have been, you know, uh, who tested positive for coronavirus, and their journey have been, individually has been different, but essentially it's just the support of these health workers and other frontliners that have provided the best support for them. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're thinking of you. And actually, one of the players in my table, regular table, Luke, is a frontliner, and some of them are doctors. So part of my, my I would say giving back to them is just to give them games and occasionally, try to kill them. Yeah. Just to give them more excitement in life and just to provide
Yeah.
joy in like 4 hours a week, just a escape from their normal day-to-day challenges.
Yeah, guys, if you like us to run a game for you, let us know. Let Fonzie know at least. I'll probably play this table as a PC. But yeah, I didn't know that Luke was an frontliner pala.
Yeah,
Good.
he's
Yeah.
the
This is
front
their
line.
way of this is their way of like relieving stress. This is
Oh yeah.
yeah. It's been
And
very rough for them.
yeah, and we were running Baldur's Gate actually for them, which is interesting. Maybe I'll run Toa just for them to be, thematically.
Not this again. We already have this in real life.
What? Another pandemic?
God damn it. Anyway, I found the poster. So here's what it says.
All right.
It'll be really quick. Why do D&D players take coronavirus seriously? We've learned two things from experience. Number one, a 2% chance of death is not as low as it sounds. Remember those death saves where you roll a 1? And then, no matter how high your constitution score is, there's always a chance you'll fail your saving throw. Right? So, coronavirus is not a game. But still, diba? Kaya we're very careful. We don't want to take chances. We don't want to take risks. It's because it's a very real threat eh. And but sana if ikaw lang mag-isa, no man is an island. You get yourself infected, there's a chance that you infect others.
Yeah.
So
And think
You
about
just
and
go
think
ahead.
about it this way: like a lawful evil creature would still wear a mask, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
It will.
it would make sense for everyone to just wear a mask because if you
Yeah,
even if you're evil, which I know you are deep down. No, I'm just kidding. So, so we just need to be smart. And
yeah,
maybe the chaotic evil ones won't wear masks because they
yeah,
don't really think of anything,
yeah,
ex- or they don't really care. So
yeah,
we're seeing like the alignment of people based on their behavior here.
yeah.
So if you are evil right now, if you are listening to this and you identify as evil, be lawful evil and wear a mask.
Yeah, I mean, don't if you can't do it, like if not for yourselves, do it for your minions, man. Do you know
Yeah.
how hard it is to get good labor these days? To get good anong tawag mo dun? Good footmen. I forgot what
Hmm.
henchmen rather. It's hard to
Peons.
get. Yeah. So yeah. And this isn't to say na ano, we're not saying na stay at home. Well, we're recommending that you stay at home. Pero there are some people who are like less privileged that can't necessarily stay at home. They have to work. But what we're saying is just be very, very like careful.
Oh yeah.
Put alcohol on your hands. Wear a mask. Stay away from people. Like practice social distancing.
Yeah, don't talk to your crush. Things like that.
I stammered that. I'm like, oh no, wait! I talked to her via Facebook.
Like
So gotcha.
thinking about how alignments would wear their masks, right? Like chaotic goods. I know the lawful goods would probably wear proper face masks and face
Yeah.
shields and PPEs and stuff like that.
Uh,
Chaotic goods would probably just wear face masks and sometimes hang it like a little
oh,
bit
just
below the
below the
nose. Chao-
just
chaotic
quick, man.
chaotic neutrals would probably just take off the masks once it gets itchy, but occasionally brings it back. Chaotic evil people won't probably wear
They won't.
masks.
They won't. These
Chaotic
are the.
yeah, lawful evils probably wear masks
They will wear
and
masks, and
PPEs.
then they will work towards poking your own mask so it has holes. So
Hmm.
yeah.
And sell
Anyway,
like plants for 65,000 pesos
wait,
on
what?
Facebook Marketplace, and
Oh my god.
overpriced face masks, like, and capitalize
Oh,
on
okay.
businesses that are that's what lawful evil people do. But at
For
least
some
they wear
reason, I
masks.
thought, yeah, they do. But now that I think, you know what? Like overpriced mask. Oh, okay, I get it. I thought you said plants. I'm like 65,000 peso
Yeah,
plants. I
for a
mean,
plant. For a
what?
plant.
Why? What is this plant? Is this
Uh,
like a really rare, you know?
no, it's not. It's not even. It's just capitalizing on the economy. You know how
Oh, wow.
and how now weird other people's buying behavior is with
There's a
wanting,
difference between being a very honorable entrepreneur and just being a dickhead.
and that is a very fine line. The
Yeah,
fine line being that who's the focus on. Like a dickhead, you focus on yourself. You're a
yeah,
good businessman, you focus on other people. That's the
yeah.
line.
That's a really good man. Then I wanna get into
Piece
inbound
of
marketing
paper.
all of a sudden.
I have a piece of paper telling
Yeah.
me that
Oh,
I know better.
oh, how it shines. Plus two charisma. No, plus two charisma.
Yeah. My feet is being right.
That is. We need to nerf that.
Oh yeah. Fucking nerf that shit. Stupid. Yeah.
Chris Perkins, what is this? Well, he does have a master's, but or he does have a certification.
But he is a certified dick as well. So uh,
Anyway,
like a certification is just a piece of paper. Come on, guys. It's really just how you behave.
yeah. Speaking of being able to convince people, that's considered an ability check, right?
It
It's a
is, my
person.
friend.
It's a skill rather, but skills tend to have ability checks.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, we are going to talk about ability checks for this podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, drawing from our example of the coronavirus poster, there's a 2% chance to fail a saving throw. So yeah. Uh,
So yeah, just talking about ability checks now. Like in your character sheets, hold on.
it's okay.
In your character sheets, you would see six of your pillar abilities, right? First of them being strength, which measures your physical power. Second, your dexterity, which measures your agility.
Mm-hmm.
Constitution, which measures your endurance. Intelligence, which measures your reasoning and memory. This is interesting. Wisdom, measuring your perception and insight. And charisma, measuring your force of personality. So
Yeah.
the ability checks are distilled from these ideas. So essentially, we have different ability checks that would be prompted once you try a certain action or you're going for a certain outcome within the mechanics of the game. So
Yeah.
like information for our beloved tier 1 Adventures
Listeners.
League listeners, D&D is much more than combat. Yeah.
Whoa, lo and behold. And Fonzie
Yeah.
has the certification to prove he knows, right?
Yeah, I'm always right. I'm just kidding. I'm not always right. I'm wrong
Just
all the
kidding.
time. Um, but yeah, but in essence, like one of the situations that really brought me back to this idea is that there is a very big difference from playing modules being short adventures that span from 2 to 4 to 6 hours, sometimes 8 depending on the DM, and versus really these long-term campaigns, whether homebrew or whether set adventures, published adventures, that is. So published adventures give a very open and broad spectrum in terms of the things that you can do in the world. But talking about modules and how specific modules can be, modules tend to have this really focused story point, the goals that you need to accomplish, obstacles, the maps, and combat, and eventually, getting the objective done, whether or not
Yeah.
you're successful or not, right? So, in terms of like focusing on the modules, there is a plethora of ability checks or usage of skills that is available on your character sheet and even on the player's handbook that kind of like gets lost in how we normally do things, right?
Yeah.
And talking about that and which is kind of like the spirit of this discussion, so that we can revisit all these checks and what are these checks for.
Yeah.
So thinking about what check would you like to focus on right now, Carla, and discuss as we kick off this idea?
Well, yeah. So, as in a nutshell, if you guys want to read along, I'm not gonna read though. We're gonna talk about it, but just as a reference, we're going to be focusing on pages 174 to 179, 178 of the player's handbook. So yeah, an ability check tests a character or a monster's innate talent and training in an effort to overcome a challenge. So yeah, these are what ability checks are for. As to what ability checks will focus on, maybe we can run through all of them, Fonzie. Have like just a really quick refresher
Sure.
on some of these ability checks and how some of them are how should I say this, used the wrong way, question mark,
Yeah.
or how some of them are underrated during some of the or underused during during circumstances where they will most likely be used,
All
right?
right. So let's kick off with the most commonly used, I think, which are strength checks, especially for adventures that are require some measurement of your physical prowess in
Yeah.
terms of like in not to. not to be religious or anything, but
Uh,
going back to the time when Jesus was resurrected and he had to roll the stone away, what kind of check did he make to be able to do that? So
eh,
probably, probably not strength. But if you were an adventurer stuck in that same cave, like how the hell are you able to roll that stone away? So probably,
yeah,
as you describe your character to be a barbarian, and then he tries to lay both of his hands on on the stone and try to roll it forward and stuff to try to get it open, you would have to make a strength check, or what under that strength check is an athletics check.
yeah. So I'll read off of page 175. Strength measures bodily power, athletic training, and the extent to which you can exert raw physical force. So a strength check can model any attempt to lift, push, pull, or break something, to force your body through a space, or to otherwise apply brute force to a situation. The rolling the stone again to open up the
Mhm.
tomb thing. Okay, athletics, it covers difficult situations where you encounter while climbing, jumping, or swimming. Examples include the following activities, and this is something that I'd like to discuss with other players. Can I do an acrobatics check? Anyway, sorry. You attempt to climb a sheer or slippery cliff, avoid hazards while scaling a wall, or cling to a surface while something is trying to knock you off. The second one being you try to jump an unusually long distance or pull off a stunt mid jump. And the third one would be you struggle to swim or stay afloat in treacherous currents, storm tossed waves, or areas of thick seaweed. Or another creature tries to push or pull you underwater or otherwise interfere with your swimming. So yeah, other ano naman situations include forcing open a stuck, locked, or barred door, to trying to break free of bonds, pushing through a tunnel that's too small, hang on to a wagon while being dragged behind it, tipping over a really heavy statue, and keeping a boulder from rolling or rolling that boulder. So
Haha.
yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I've encountered during in play is that a dex based player wants to use acrobatics instead of strength to climb over walls. Right? Normally, I would allow that, but I would ask how he or she would do it.
Mhm.
Because in real life, when you climb, doing pull-ups, for instance, that shit hurts.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're very heavy, it'll require a lot of uh, core training or core engaging your core and then lifting yourself up to do that. So unless you're able to to me, I'd allow it if there's some semblance of momentum happening. Like you could do that. You can use momentum for your acrobatics feat. But other than that, I don't. I really require a strength check
Yeah, I agree.
because. Go ahead.
I agree in terms of like momentum, like how athletics is worded is a use of sheer force, right?
Yeah.
So if you intend to climb over like a 100 feet wall, your momentum can only get you as far up as it can. Eventually, you're going to have to use force or your strength, right?
Yeah.
And the idea being like I like the play of momentum because dex checks in terms of acrobatics, and how it's worded kind of like points towards your ability to air quotes in the air stay on your feet. So essentially it's a use of momentum and how
Yeah.
you're able to use that momentum to your advantage. So that's an acrobatics check. So in terms of like if your character is physically able to climb or scale up a wall, that would make sense in terms of like using momentum. Then probably an acrobatics check would make sense rather than a athletics check. However,
Yeah.
if you are carrying your body, and that momentum will occasion or eventually come to a hold where you're physically suspended on the wall and you have to use your muscles to pull yourself up,
Yeah,
then
that's a
that's an
strength check,
athletics.
man.
So
Yeah.
how I would probably rule it is that if you have like 100 feet in terms of like a wall, right? And okay, so can I athletics check my way up DM? Well, you can certainly try. So make an acrobatics sorry, an acrobatics check
That,
to scale up, right? So okay, you can certainly try use an acrobatics check to see how far up you can go based on your momentum,
yeah.
right?
Because you're just climbing, you're just running up
Right. So
Naruto
you
style.
you you Naruto style, you slap your hands and make weird gang signs, and then you run up the wall and you roll a hey, I rolled a natural 20. Congratulations, you got 20 feet up. With
Now what?
now you're stuck there with your momentum. I'll give you a
Uh-huh.
bonus, like 40 feet up. You
Uh-huh.
run and you climb up as far as you can. You're Sonic the Hedgehogging up the wall, and then momentum eventually fades as gravity sets in.
Yeah.
You have to hold on. Okay, you're stuck there. You're 40 feet up the air, up the wall. What would you like to do? So that's kind of like how I would rule it. Kind
Yeah.
of boring, but but if you're like game, or if your wife is already calling you, where are you, and you're a DM, and you have to go, then probably okay, make an acrobatics check. Oh, congratulations, you managed to climb up a 100 feet wall, and you're now in front of the BBAG. What would you like to do?
And that's where we'll end this session because I have to fight my own BBEG.
So I think like one of the ways that athletics are is misused is that just the idea of like keeping in mind the idea of using force, using physical strength to move something. So if you have to think about, there are normal activities in life that you would have to use your force and you engage your core and bite down, and that's really when you would use athletics rather than acrobatics. If it's acrobatics, it would just be a play of momentum. You would gather momentum for yourself and use that momentum for your advantage, to your
Yeah.
advantage.
When it comes at least to scaling walls, at least that's one of the no, that's one of the like yeah, like I always ask them to do strength checks or athletics checks if they couldn't describe to me how they would scale this wall that requires momentum.
Yeah. And part of and talking about now movement and moving from strength checks into dexterity checks, because we've been
Mm-hmm.
talking about acrobatics. So under dexterity are three things: acrobatics, sleight of hand, and stealth. These are normally, very roguish types of skills
Yeah.
that you would utilize, but essentially they have their own purpose. They have their own very significant purpose in how we relate with the world around us.
Yeah.
With acrobatics, again, like I said, it's just about using the momentum. So it covers your attempt to stay on your feet in a tricky situation, such as when you're trying to run across a sheet of ice, balance on a tightrope, or stay upright on a rocking ship's deck. So it's just about
Yeah.
more or less this kind of like points towards balance, but you can more or less expand this to the idea of your character being able to still stay centered despite the environment going to shit.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Like I guess we could include in this is since a lot of crossbow or dex based fighters are archers. Maybe we could include precision as well, like precision, balance, knowing how to shoot things. Yeah.
Yeah. Sleight of hand also is something that would point towards precision in terms of like how are you able to precisely maneuver your dexterous hands and fingers to be able to perform tasks that require some level of um, intricacy and carefulness and intentionality. in terms of like breaking locks or disarming traps and stuff like that. Things are, and even pickpocketing or placing evidence or planting evidence into some strange,
Skyrim.
yeah,
Sorry.
Skyriming, pressing your L3 button to duck down and sneak, and you press A to pickpocket, right? So whenever you attempt, so it's essentially how it's written. It's whenever you attempt an act of, how do you pronounce this word?
Legerdemain.
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 Whenever you attempt an act of manual trickery, right, such as planting something on someone else or concealing an object with your person, or similar to those types of things, when you don't want people to notice what you're doing with your hands, right? It's a sleight of hand check. Or essentially, if there is a specific action that you need to make that requires a very delicate approach to doing things, so that's a sleight of hand.
All right. Okay, so if you'll notice, the dexterity ability is also linked to armor class and to initiative. It's because armor class, because this is how you dodge. This is your dodge mechanic, or this is your dodge mechanic in Ragnarok. Wow, I'm referencing some really old games. Anyway, so if you'll notice, why your AC has your dexterity modifier on it, it's because AC kind of acts as your reflex meter. So this determines how good you or how well you dodge things.
Yep.
And then lastly, pertaining to reflexes, initiative is also linked to the dexterity check. So rolling initiative is really rolling dexterity checks to find out who acts first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at the beginning of every combat, you roll initiative by making a dexterity check. Initiative determines the order of creatures' turns in combat, as described in Chapter 9 of Combat.
Yep. And part of that is, the idea of HP is not really you get actually hit by an attack.
Yeah.
It's a circumstance that happens around you, that represents your HP. So some DMs would like to really just focus on characters actually getting hit, but sometimes you can play it off as an event that happens around you, right? And part of the dex checks also is stealth checks, and part of stealth checks is just your character's ability to be unnoticed or to stay unnoticed and to hide in plain sight, or either use the environment to his advantage to be able to sneak around enemies, slip away, or just be able to stay hidden in a sense.
Yeah. So this is like me, where strength concerns like sheer physical force, exerting against something or pulling towards something. Um, dexterity is really just maintaining your shit amidst the chaos.
Yeah.
Maintaining your physical um, disposition, your physical calm. Your physical chill. I can't believe I'm using these terms to describe ability checks. But yeah, it's just maintain your ability to maintain your physical chill during really rough situations.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. Go ahead.
And using this physical chill against your opponent, especially if you use finesse weapons or if you're a monk and you like to be very accurate when it comes to hitting those key sensitive areas of the body.
Absolutely. And speaking of activating and making sense of your body and staying control of your body is constitution checks. Which would you like to talk about that, Carlo?
Yeah, Constitution measures health, stamina, and vital force. So this is basically, for lack of a better better word rather, it's your constitution. This is your life force. This is your health meter, essentially. So constitution checks are, I'd like to say, especially when it comes to combat, or no, it's actually probably happens in combat. Pero it says in the PHB, which I don't know, I feel like I'd like to disagree with. Constitution checks are uncommon, and no skills apply to constitution checks because the endurance this ability represents is largely passive rather than involving a specific effort on the part of a character or monster. So constitution check can model your attempt to push beyond normal limits, however.
Mm-hmm.
The
Makes sense
DM
though.
might call the DM might call for a constitution check when you try to accomplish tasks like the following: holding your breath, march or labor for hours without rest, go without sleep, survive without food or water, and quaff an entire stein of ale in one go without, you know, calling your ex and telling her how much you want her back. Pero yeah, this is essentially a more passive thing. Like if you have you're either gifted with it or you're not, or you can develop it.
Yeah,
Um,
makes
this
sense.
is this is the ability check for all triathletes.
Yeah.
Because yeah, marching, running, swimming, biking, and running for hours without rest. It's something that a lot of long endurance athletes train for. So this is their thing.
Mm-hmm.
They are the barbarians of the real. They have really high constitution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it kind of like measures also the force of will of one person, and
It's
being
although isn't the force of will wisdom? I guess in terms of physicality,
Mhm.
right? That's what you meant. So no, I will not die. And that's my verbal that's my verbal interpretation of what the constitution is like, or a constitution check is like. Like I can imagine just being blasted in the face by a frost by a white dragon. Yeah, I think a constitution check is right for that, because you
yeah,
couldn't.
we'll talk about wisdom in a bit, but
Yeah,
essentially it just measures your ability to stay uncompromised, and that's really just the measurement of or what I mean by force of will.
force
It's
of
just
will. Oh, okay.
for you to
All
be
right, all
able
right.
to stay whether or to measure what your reaction is going to be based on internal or external factors,
Yep.
and for you to either stay on point or have a random effect happen to you because you failed your constitution checks.
Yeah.
And
So
there are
poisons.
and
Mm-mm.
there are circumstances that would affect your ability to maintain a strong constitution, in terms of like
Yeah.
being let's say something happens that you are emotionally compromised, so you can't really dig in too deep in terms of your own constitution.
Mm-mm.
And this is the only check that you don't do with disadvantage whenever you're stunned or incapacitated or anything,
Yeah.
because
This is a passive thing.
it is a very passive thing. So it's either you still make constitution saving throws whenever you're incapacitated or in zero hit points, but you still do it straight. So depending
Yeah.
on, of course, depending on the circumstances of your own, of your own condition. Like if you're poisoned, let's say, if you're poisoned, you do all checks or saving throws with disadvantage. So this would point to that you,
Yeah.
since your body is compromised,
Compromised. Yeah.
you can't really dig in too deep because you're very
Uh,
vulnerable in that sense. Yeah.
it's poison. Oh my gosh, it hurts.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is one of the checks that I. This is one of my favorite checks, mostly because I like imagining how it would feel like being hit, for example, by what do you call that? Is that a was that a power word death? I'm not sure. It's a super strong spell where you get hit by it and you have to make a constitution saving throw in order um withstand that ray of necrotic damage. Maybe we can talk about damages in a while. I imagine how it's like. What's it going to feel like? Is it you be it? Does it make you feel like your life force is being drained away? And how does that feel? Like, do you feel dizzy? Do you feel sleepy? What I mean, they feel really like pain driving across your body. So this is one of the checks that I love because it makes me imagine how painful that would hurt. Anyway, so
Well,
I just like to put that in.
power word Gil has no save.
Oh, it just kills you. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what was that? What was that thing that with the concert? I don't. This is why I'm a martial fighter. I don't remember some of the spells. Was that disintegrate? I think disintegrate is a saving throw.
Disintegrate is a dex save.
Yeah, it's a dexterity saving
It's
throw.
Avada Kedavra.
This um I forgot what that spell, but it does necrotic damage, man. I forgot.
Now let's look that up.
Yeah,
After this episode.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's one of, and another thing. I mentioned earlier the dragon's frost breath. I do imagine like, I'm a person who is more akin to fire, and hot weather. So if you expose me to cold weather, I am at my weakest. If you expose me like going, for example, going to Baguio is going to be a rough trip for me. Going to like Japan,
Mhm.
that was really rough because it's really cold back there.
I
And
love
then just
Japan.
imagining, oh yeah, imagining this really huge white lizard just blasting ice at me. I'm dead.
I was looking up the spells, and maybe the death spell that you were thinking of is Finger of Death.
Yes, yun, that's it. I was remember Dota. No, it's not. Yeah, it's Dota, but Finger of Death. That's it. That was it. You
Mhm.
need to do a
It's a con
Constitution
save,
saving throw.
or you
Yeah.
take 7d8 plus 30 necrotic damage.
I want to know how. I don't want to know how that feels. I just want to know how people would describe how that feels. Anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
Yikes. And if you die, you turn into a zombie.
That's Finger of Death. Oh gosh.
Oh yes.
Ah. So you're just a shambling corpse of undeath. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well,
Sucks to be on the receiving end of that.
Well, you know what they say, Fonzie. You wouldn't expose yourself to these situations if you were intelligent enough? Question mark. And yeah, our next check would involve intelligence checks. And as you can see, regarding these segues or these transitions to different ability checks, I don't have a high intelligence check. So, Fonzie, take it away.
Well, um, in terms of intelligence, it just measures mental acuity, strength of recall, and ability to reason. So it's logic here, right?
Logic.
So an
I don't
intelligence
have
check
a logic.
comes into play when you need to draw on logic, education, memory, or deductive reasoning. So there are there are five uh, pillars here that stems from intelligence checks. First is Arcana, is the Arcana check, which measures your ability to recall lore about spells, magic items, so on and so forth. History checks, which is something that measures your ability to recall information that you have that you came across before, either by chance or by story, or if there is something that you specifically that that your character needs to remember, you can just roll a history check for you to be able to do that. Investigation is more of, it's not so much as the physical activity of going through and rifting no and going through stuff to be able to look for items. It's your ability to identify clues and make deductions based on those clues. So in terms of, like, if you're ravaging through like a bedroom to look for a journal and that's sort of thing, versus if you would like to use investigation checks would allow you some sense of systemized
Systematized search.
approach to that method for you to be able to go through that search without
Like Geralt's Witcher senses.
yeah
Mm.
exactly that, right? Nature checks is sorry
It's okay.
Nature checks are measures your ability to recall lore about terrain, plants, and animals, and the weather and natural cycles. So this is kind of like used very loosely,
Mm.
but essentially, nature checks it measures your ability to remember or to interact with the elements surrounding the world around you, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
And talking about the last one, the last pillar here is religion. Religion is just measures your ability to recall the same thing, lore about deities, rites, and prayers, or religious hierarchies, holy symbols, and practices, which is something very interesting because we
Mm.
use religion checks very loosely in terms of like you want to talk to your deity or make a
Yeah.
religion check. So that's not really a thing, but it could be a thing if you
Yeah.
would like it because sometimes people use religion as a way to measure one's ability to connect with your deity, which
Yeah.
is
So what are
not really the case as you think about this, but it's just about your ability to be able to remember uh
yeah.
like measures to recall. It just says here, so it's just your ability to do that.
Yeah, like maybe how do you talk with your deity? Like how to initiate the conversation? What rights do you need to follow? Siguro,
There are
parang
spells that do that.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
would probably need to expend some spell slots because with I like DM, I would like to sit down in a corner and pray to my god. Can I roll a religion check to see what my god tells me?
Uh,
Well, there are spells that do that, so you can't go into a corner. DM, can I talk to my god with something? So you can just cast certain spells to be able to do that. And there are like spells like commune, spells like or channel divinities like divine intervention. So these really kind of like put into perspective in terms of how you relate and how you use your deity in game, because
mm,
they're not as hands on as you would think, like in terms of like that in that aspect. So
mhm.
it's an interesting view about religion and how it can be enforced in games. That ultimately it's your choice. How you intend to use skills and this religion feat or checks to be able to influence your game. But that's just how it's a different way of looking at it in a way.
Yeah. Other intelligence checks include communicating with a creature without words. So there's really logic through it. How do I communicate to someone that I am hungry? So probably just put your hand over your stomach and another hand pointing to your mouth. Yeah, that sounds like that looks like I'm hungry, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
for you to be able to understand what they're trying to say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really a logic thing. Estimate the value of a precious item. So appraising. So how much would this gem cost exactly? Putting together a disguise to pass as a city guard. So normally, I assume this is based on the memory of the guy of that person, and then how it would look like. I guess the other skill check for this would be dexterity, so as the precision on how it would actually look like.
Or
I'm
use
not
your
sure how.
you use your disguise kit and
Yeah.
add your
Oh yeah.
proficiency bonus if you're proficient
Yeah.
to it.
With it. Yeah. Forging a document. So just trying to remember what the handwriting looks like. Recall lore about a craft or trade that you've read, and win a game of skill like chess or Dungeons and Dragons. I guess. Just kidding. I'm kidding. That's not. For those who are listening to this podcast right now, Fonzie is rolling his eyes.
No, I'm what I would like to do is I look up and
Uh,
what that does, and when you see me going up, I'm trying to remember or think about what
okay
to
ka
do.
lang.
So I'm not rolling my eyes like that.
Sorry.
So
So
I'm
he was just looking up lang pala. He's trying to remember.
yeah, I'm trying to actually the point of like chess being a measure of intelligence. Like, is it really a measure? Yeah, it's a measure of intelligence. Yeah.
Logic. Like
Logic
if he does this, I will do this.
and
But
constitution.
I
Yeah,
have never been to an actual chess match. They say it lasts for hours now. Is that
dude.
real?
Yeah, one look, like
Oh my gosh.
there are formats to like chess games. Like the blitz would last about 5-10 minutes, and there are like other forms that would last like less than 3 minutes. But really, the classical games, that's how they call it, classic games or classical games, they would last for hours, even days.
Days.
Mhm.
Sorry to paano ko. Holy
So
shit.
some games, like some classical tournaments, one game would last about 8 hours, and it's really just exciting because there are certain parts of the game, right? Like it's the opening, the middle game, the late game, and the and how you and then to like the openings are really just exciting, but
Uh,
when it comes to the middle game and just really going out
End game.
into the end game part, it just turns into just really this exercise of of a
Constitution.
mental constitution, because
How
some players spend hours thinking about one move, and they're not just and just thinking about like what the possibilities would be if I made this move, and they think about 14, 15, sometimes even 20 moves ahead.
yeah, and
And
there are 16 pieces. Oh my god.
yeah, chess is really a fascinating game, and it really just reminds you how stupid you are.
This is why I'm a martial fighter. So
Like I love chess. I love to learn the game, but I'm just not really. It's just good. For example, like it's a really good tool for me to just focus in on and forget. And and to play chess is exactly to do that. To just focus on the what's going on in front of you in that board. And maybe that's
wow.
why it's an intelligence check, because
Yeah.
it just really requires that level of
Focus,
focus.
mental endurance. Although mental endurance is more akin to, I think, to wisdom.
And
But
yeah,
yeah,
talking about wisdom, we have the same, wisdom checks
yeah.
reflects how attuned you are with the world around you and representing perceptiveness and intuition. It has animal handling, insight checks, which is something very common that we would hear.
Yeah.
Insight check. If I
Insight
it
check,
should be
bitch. That's
mine.
how I say it sometimes.
Yeah, medicine checks, which allows you to stabilize, which is something very strange, but okay,
And
sure.
yeah, wouldn't that be an intelligence thing? Like,
Yeah,
oh gosh,
debatable.
what do we do? He's unconscious. He hit his head against the pavement. What do we do?
You
Should we get
remember
a
like
doctor?
you remember like what the procedures would be, so you don't feel for the right procedures, right? You
Oh yeah,
remember. So
yeah.
it's a strange thing, but sure, why not?
Okay.
Like a dying companion to diagnose an illness. Okay, maybe it's just the make of the cleric. Like a cleric is wisdom based rather than a medic.
Oh yeah, he or she is the healer na pala. Okay.
And maybe the idea being that the cleric needs to just like the method of the cleric is more muscle memory than anything else. So it
Yeah.
maybe this okay. So wisdom also includes perception. Perception checks being one of the most widely used checks in the game. It's
Mm-hmm.
just your ability to be able to see, spot, hear, or detect the presence of something, and measures your general awareness of your surroundings. And also,
Mm.
one of the checks that are widely, not very used often, survival checks, um, in terms of like
Yeah.
following tracks or hunting or guiding your members through wastelands and stuff like that, which is something that my ranger loves doing in terms of like going into outdoor adventures and
Yeah. That he has to, kasi that's the outdoors, man. Owl bears and shit. You have to you have to be very careful.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
guess going back to our Geralt example of the Witcher sense, for those who don't play The Witcher, this is basically um, his way or the protagonist, the video game character's way of searching items. Would survival equate to a nature or to an investigation check? No, no. Kasi whenever he
different
does
intent. Yeah, different intent.
yeah, yeah,
Investigation, I feel like, is looking for clues.
on why it turned up that way,
Yeah,
right?
it's putting
Uh,
things together.
uh,
Survival is just your ability to look for clues in the setting of the nature of nature,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So uh, you can use your investigation trait to be able to look for other clues, or if there are footprints,
Yeah.
or if there are certain clues aside from footprints that would tell you that there would be movement, or something like that. But survival is just like, it's just Aragorn in that scene where they found out that
That
uh,
hobbits are.
the hobbits could have been killed with by the Rohirrim and stuff like that, and he was just looking at the ground and putting things together.
I was
And
about to say it's a very Geralt moment from Aragorn. Wait, they walk right here.
Aragorn has a plus 20 in wisdom and survival checks
We
because,
should talk about that later in the podcast. Like
dude,
which popular ano. Sige, later.
dude, D&D was based on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, man. I know.
And that's why, and one of the particular, just going on a tangent, is that why halflings are called halflings and not hobbits is because copyright.
Yeah, you're right.
So they failed their
Evil
charisma
copyright.
checks in introducing that halfling hobbit idea. So sad, kind of sad, right?
Yeah.
So talking about charisma checks now, as we move forward a
Okay.
little bit, charisma checks measures your ability to interact effectively with others. So it's a social interaction kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it is, believe it is the only check that requires somebody else to be able to use it.
Um, we can get to that later on, but the spell casting ability.
Oh yeah.
So, okay. So, for charisma checks, there are one, two, three, four, five skills involved that involve your charisma. So basically, the first one would be deception. So if you're trying to deceive someone into believing something, that's a check that you make with your ability, with your charisma ability modifier. Intimidation, if you want to intimidate someone into doing something for you or into believing something that you claim, you use that with your charisma ability modifier. Performance. So I think Fonzie, you can explain this better than I can because I don't know how to perform.
The wording
Uh,
here is very interesting because it says that your charisma performance check determines how well you can delight an audience with music, dance, acting, storytelling, or some other form of entertainment. So it's just a
yeah,
measure of delight and
yeah,
how much you can inspire that a reaction from the audience based on your intent. So for example, if there are certain situations that would require your character to act out a certain circumstance. For
way.
example, you come out of a corner into a group of guards hanging out in the other corner, and then you act out as if somebody is trying to take away or trying to rob you, or somebody is after you, when the
Create a
intention,
distraction.
yeah, the intention is to create a distraction. So would you have to roll a deception check or a performance check? I would actually go for the latter, a performance check, because of just your character's ability to be able to produce uh, an,
A
an
story.
a story, or produce this level of performance that would get a certain level of in or reaction from an audience, which are the three guards. So a
Mm.
performance check, and there are either or, it's like you can use either of the two, but I would actually opt to always go out for the performance check when there is an audience. But if it's more of a one-on-one thing, like for example, you succeed in that performance check and the guards approach you, and some of the guards go after and go into that alleyway, and that one guard remains and tries to talk to you and tries to get more information, and you deliberately tell deceiving things, that's when you roll the deception check.
That's a deception check na. Yeah,
So
I
for
agree with
my,
that.
it's hiding the truth and being able to either verbally or through your actions. So it's just your ability to be able to produce more context without stumbling on a few things. So the initial pickup line is a performance check, but as you go into the
Should progress.
conversation, it's
Yeah.
either persuasion or deception.
Yeah. I like that. That. I think that's how it should work. But others just go, make a deception check because we're running out of time.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's understandable. That, like, one check can determine the outcomes. It just depends on how you want to run your game. But ideally, like, that's the setup. Like, how would you? Is it's very underused. Like, performance checks are very underused in adventures, mainly just
Mm-mm.
because other DMs see it just like it's just a bard thing. It's just a bard
Yeah.
thing. You sing in front of it. Okay, make a performance check. There's That's not the only use for that. You can also apply that check to
Yeah.
other people. And I
We
have
did.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have used that, and my players have reacted well. Like, how
Yeah.
are you able to, how it just really forces out or inspires just really interesting and awkward and just silly role play opportunities. How
Yeah.
how do you convince the guards? Like, what do you say? Like, what do you do?
Act it out, say it, diba? Para it's a good way to really get people, get the players immersed in the game. And yeah, I feel like we mentioned that we were talking about how some ability checks are underrated, so or how they could have been better used. I guess that's one of the instances where a performance check could really be um, efficiently used
Mm-hmm.
or enforced by the DM. So
Absolutely.
going through the through the spellcasting ability, which is interesting. So bards, paladins, sorcerers, and warlocks use charisma as their spellcasting ability, which helps determine the saving throw DCs of spells they cast. So in my mind, imagine this sheer force of personality being able to summon fireballs to travel to other dimensions. Imagine just doing that by your sheer will of sheer, sheer will of force of personality. It's fascinating to think that. And to be fair, a lot of there have been a lot of people who are able to do that through their sheer force of personality. They're able to change the world in good ways, sometimes in bad ways. Pero yeah, I guess that's a thing.
Absolutely. Like
Charisma
shouting, like pointing out like cultists and how they are able to gather more power,
followers.
quote unquote.
Yeah,
They're using their
yeah,
charisma.
yeah.
I think it's just a way for for the creators of the game to be able to contextualize and really just be able to somewhat make an order out of where you draw your power from, if it's something, if it's a deity based or a power, then it could be from charisma. A bard is essentially just a bard, and he draws his power from being able to inspire others or to affect others based on status conditions. And spells like vicious mockery would make sense that it's a charisma sourced power, because it's essentially just trying to fuck your head up by saying weird things to them, causing
Yeah.
damage. So those are just interesting ways of how characters interact with magic
Mhm.
and how they draw out magic from their own quirk, from their own respective quirks. You know.
So now we come to a segment where I think of well, this isn't really a segment, it's something I thought off the fly. Occupations. What spellcasting ability is their main?
Mm.
Right? So I'm thinking athletes would probably, depending on the kind of athlete, I guess, would require a lot of their strength and dexterity abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors and lawyers, engineers, intelligence, right?
Lawyers. Maybe charisma.
Ah, yeah, good point. Charisma,
Maybe charisma.
charisma, a little bit of charisma, no?
Well,
It'll
well, if we go to the cartoon version of lawyers, maybe charisma. Maybe politicians as
Phoenix,
well.
right? Oh,
Politicians,
yeah,
maybe charisma. Lawyers can be like intelligence or something. Like
yeah,
make a history check on how
yeah.
you can recall certain laws and stuff like that.
Cases, di ba? Annotations, yeah. For wisdom,
Uh,
coaches, I guess.
wisdom, yes. Coaches mainly wisdom or charisma.
Charisma.
Um, me
Priests.
wisdom, yes, definitely like practitioners or uh like yoga practitioners, maybe
Yeah,
wisdom.
wisdom. And some dexterity, I guess, because it's hard to do those poses. And strength, believe it or not.
Yeah. Or teachers, maybe wisdom. Uh,
Yeah.
and I would say like healthcare workers are intelligence, I think.
Yeah.
Intelligence or wisdom, like nurses and stuff.
I feel like constitution belongs to everyone. Everyone should be healthy. Should
Yeah.
do their best to be healthy so everyone else is healthy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you are wearing a mask and practicing social distancing and and doing all those best practices crap, you can make your constitution checks with advantage.
Advantage.
Mhm. With a
Yeah. So,
bonus.
yeah, the bonus. +2 to protection against corona.
Oh God. I hope so. Like there are like if you think about like just breaking down certain job descriptions and how they're like monks are what spellcasting mod do monks use?
They
Wisdom,
use
right?
wisdom. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Because they
Uh,
draw
uh,
in from internal knowledge and
yeah.
self
Yeah.
mastery and stuff. So maybe wisdom. So it
Self
just depends
mastery.
on just really being able to sit down. Okay, what is the nature of this job? Like what? Yeah.
Yeah. Like so. Yeah. Now I'm thinking if you had the chance, Fonzie, to add to min max yourself right now, labo no,
Oh,
pertaining to specific skills.
right now.
What
Hmm.
would you min max?
I would focus on constitution and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
My
You already have a
intelligence,
fuck ton of wisdom, man. What are you talking about?
uh, yeah, maybe just balance out my intelligence and charisma. My
Okay.
strength, I wouldn't want to be negative with strength, and my dex is my dump stat.
For reals?
Yeah,
Wouldn't dexterity ako? It's probably just me, but I felt like playing the guitar. I tried, man. Cooperative term is try. I tried to learn how to play the guitar, and it feels like you need to be very dexterous when it comes to those strings.
that's why I am the guitar player I am. A very middle rhythm guitar player, and I'm happy with it. I don't want to be a lead guitar player. I don't want to spend hours upon hours of practice. Come on, man.
Ako, I would definitely put points in. I would definitely add points into my constitution, my wisdom, and my dumb stat would be my charisma, I guess. Cause, yeah, I mean, if I'm a more, I mean, you know me. If you don't like me, it's fine, I guess. So yeah, yep. He's looking up and trying to remember instances of but yeah, I'd probably put I'd probably have a dump stat of that would be my lowest stat. I don't want to call it dump stat because it seems like I'm throwing it away. I'll put some points in there. It's just not my focus.
Right.
Yeah,
Sure. Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right. So that's our discussion on ability checks.
Interesting. Very
Yeah,
long-winded one.
yeah.
Long-winded
It's
one.
interesting too. Yeah, maybe we can include that as a segment in the show and ask our guest about what
Really.
ability.
And
Uh,
what's the dumbest ability check you've ever had to do in your games? Like
yeah,
for
yeah. That
what?
could.
Like you tried to do something really stupid and you had to roll for it. Like what was that event if you can remember?
Um,
Yeah, and I hope the spirit of this discussion is just to really just provide more color in the games and more
mm,
understanding as to how certain ability checks behave.
yeah,
And to be able to use your ability checks with not only just precision but also with creativity, it can really open up your games to other possibilities and
mhm,
other things that your characters can do within the context of the game. So
yeah,
you don't have to be limited by very few decisions that your characters can make. Essentially, your choices are as open as your understanding of how you can relate to the world is. So if your understanding is very limited, then the things that you can do in the world is also the same.
Very limited.
If you
Yeah.
if you expand your knowledge a little bit to what you can do, like with how these checks can be used for your advantage in terms of like getting your goals or or objectives or stuff like that, or just
Getting a desired result. Yeah.
or killing a dragon. Uh,
Yeah.
so those
Surviving one.
yeah, and knowing these things that it is a possibility, and for early players and for young players who go through the game, they're not really aware as to what their limits can be in terms of role play and what they
Yeah.
can do to interact with the world. So I hope that this has been valuable to that extent to be able to give you some level of permission to be able to try certain things on your own games, and
Yeah.
stretch to like push the boundaries in terms of where your imagination can take you.
Yeah. It's all about creativity, man, and being creative with how you deal with the world. Like right
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah, like right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're a little bit overdue for that short rest. It's about time for us to gather our things and head on out back to the trail
Real.
set
Yeah.
that we're set on. So
Yeah. So Fonzie, where could they find you? Go ahead.
yeah, you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, slash Fonzi Marquez, FONZIMARQUEZ, or you can just head out to our coaching Facebook page. It's facebook.com/activate leadership ph. I also have another podcast about leadership. I publish some coaching tips every week, once a week, hopefully adding more content there. So yeah, so that's where you can find me. How about you, Carlo?
You can find me at carlogeeksout.com. So carlogeeksout.com. Just use the same whenever just do a quick Facebook, Google search as well, and you can find me there. Yeah, I think also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Yeah, that's really just it. We'd like to thank pala our glorious graphics designer for being very talented and for making our cover photo.
Mhm.
She's coming up with new graphics that may or may not feature us as as adventurers actually, because in our thumbnail we just look like two people who are out on a hike. But yeah, Fonzie may or may not be a bard, and I may or may not be a barbarian. We'll see. Who knows?
Mhm. The tier
Watch
ones.
out. Just tier ones.
The couple of tier one boys. Yeah.
They have a healer anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's about it, guys. If you have any suggestions about topics we can talk about, if you have any suggestions on guests we can host, or if you have any recommendations at all, please let us know. And if we made the mistake on some of these topics, on some of these rulings, let us know, and then we'll have a really quick light discussion on why you're wrong, because we have someone who has uh paper who can tell you that he's always right.
Well, well,
As
just
you can see.
yeah, yeah. That just we'd be interested to know like what you're thinking about in terms of like these ability checks. If there's
Yeah,
anything else that we
we'd
missed
love to know.
or any insight that you can give us. We're just very young DMs here trying to make sense of the world. And as we're going to, progress through, we're going to invite other people in over to share their own insights and their own
Yeah,
opinions about certain mechanics of D&D that we
yeah.
could share to the rest of you. So, yeah.
Just to
Thank
share
you.
my ultimate goal. Sorry, Fonzie.
Yeah,
My
go ahead.
ultimate goal is to have Joe Manganiello guest with us. I know it's a pipe dream, but hey, we don't know.
Hmm. Sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Fonzie.
I was just gonna say, like, okay, sure, let's go through that, and let's make an action plan, like how we're going to make that happen.
Just make, just get his attention all the time.
Yeah,
Joe Senpai, please notice me.
yeah. Maybe
Sorry.
maybe as we just continue on and just with a path and with a plan.
Yeah. See you on the path, Fonzie.
All right, let's go.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
A short rest with Fonzi and Carlo.